I met Naomi through my friend Andrew. He had been dating a girl named Jessica for a while. Naomi and Jessica were best friends, and it was through them that we crossed paths. They had been together for over 2 years, and Naomi and I, influenced by their relationship, decided to give it a try ourselves. Andrew was completely head over heels for Jessica, and he would do anything for her. He was madly in love, and despite the short time Naomi and I had been dating, everything seemed to be going well. But then everything changed. I had a cousin who did CrossFit at the same gym where Naomi trained. One day, she came to me with some troubling information. She told me that Naomi's reputation at the gym was terrible. Apparently, Naomi had a habit of flirting with several guys at the gym, and it wasn't just harmless small talk. She would always have these long conversations with different men. It seemed like she was constantly getting attention from them, which, in retrospect, should have raised some red flags. My cousin told me that Naomi was often seen talking and laughing with men who weren't exactly her friends, and things started to get suspicious. Eventually, I found out something that completely shattered my trust in Naomi. The gossip at the gym was that she had been hooking up with a married guy, and they would wait until late in the evening, when the gym would almost be empty. They'd sneak into the bathroom where no one would bother them, and that's where things would happen. They were getting intimate right there in the bathroom, and no one seemed to be afraid of getting caught. When I first heard this, I was in complete shock. I couldn't believe it. My world came crashing down, and I couldn't believe that Naomi, someone I had trusted, had been cheating on me. As soon as I found out, I immediately called Naomi. I was so angry I needed answers. I asked her about what was going on, and she started making excuses and playing the victim. She denied everything, but deep down I knew she was lying. I didn't buy her story for a second, so I ended the relationship on the spot. It was devastating. Our relationship had only lasted 6 months, but those months felt like an eternity. I was relieved that I had discovered who she truly was early on, and that I hadn't wasted any more time on someone who didn't deserve my trust. I immediately moved on with my life. I warned Andrew about Naomi, especially because Jessica, his girlfriend, also worked out at the same gym. I couldn't understand how Jessica didn't know what was going on. She must have seen Naomi flirting with guys and suspected something, yet she never said anything. In my eyes, she was just as complicit in all of this, and I thought she might even be doing the same thing with Andrew. But Andrew, being the loyal and trusting person that he was, refused to believe that Naomi had done anything wrong. He told me I was being paranoid. He said that Naomi wasn't cheating and that I had no reason to doubt her. He really believed in her, and I think he didn't want to accept the harsh reality. Our friendship started to crack after that, and we didn't talk for a while. It was tough because Andrew and I had been close for a long time, but I couldn't ignore what I knew. Only 2 weeks after Naomi and I broke up, I found out that she had been caught in the act. The wife of the married guy Naomi had been seeing at the gym showed up. Apparently, someone had tipped her off. This woman walked into the gym, went straight to the bathroom, and caught Naomi and her husband in the act. It was a complete disaster. She dragged Naomi out by her hair and slapped her in front of everyone. I heard the entire thing went down like a scene out of a soap opera. It was a massive scandal here in town, and it was only after this that Andrew finally reached out to me, apologizing for everything. He came over to my house with Jessica, and she swore she knew nothing about it, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. I stayed quiet, though, and didn't call her out right then. Later that day, after they left, I decided to call Andrew. I wanted to talk to him, but not while Jessica was around. My cousin had already told me that Naomi and Jessica were considered party girls at the gym. They were often the subject of jokes by other women who claimed they were always after married men. Even though I had warned Andrew, he still didn't want to accept the truth. He defended Jessica to the end, saying that she wasn't involved in anything, but it was clear to me that he was just blinded by his loyalty to her. But then something even stranger happened. 2 months later, Andrew came to me and told me that Jessica had suddenly decided she wanted to get married. It came out of nowhere, and she was pressuring him. The moment he said that, I looked at him and said, "Andrew, she's pregnant." He looked at me skeptical, but after a while it was undeniable. Jessica's belly was growing, and the story she started telling was that the baby was Andrew's and that they had to get married now. But I knew that this baby wasn't his, and I kept telling Andrew he needed to insist on a paternity test once the baby was born. But again, Andrew didn't listen to me. He refused to demand a DNA test, saying it would cause problems in their relationship. He didn't want Jessica to feel offended. Despite the signs, he kept telling me that everything would work out. Eventually, the baby was born, and to no one's surprise, it wasn't Andrew's. The baby didn't resemble him at all, and it was clear that the child had no genetic connection to his family. Andrew's family has very distinct features, and the baby had none of those. It was obvious. After a few months, Andrew finally separated from Jessica, but by then it was already too late. He had spent so much money. He had rented a house, furnished it, and bought everything for the baby. I remember Andrew's mom coming to my house, furious, telling me how messed up the whole situation was. She was upset about the money Andrew had wasted, and she was angry about how naive he had been. Andrew ended up moving back in with his mother, and Jessica returned to her mother's house with the baby. Things seemed to calm down for a while, but months later, Jessica filed for child support. Andrew hired a lawyer, but the lawyer was realistic about the situation and told him that Jessica had a high chance of winning in court. After a year, the court ruled that Andrew would have to pay child support. Even though he appealed the decision, the lawyer advised him to start paying during the appeal process. Meanwhile, Jessica had already resumed her life, going out with her new boyfriend, leaving the baby with her mother as if nothing had happened. I started going to a local spot where they played Pagoda every Friday. It was near my place, and I saw Jessica there, always showing up. Every time she saw me, she'd greet me in the most shameless way possible. And the worst part? She was making out with her new boyfriend in front of me. It was as if she had no shame at all. When I told Andrew about this, he lost it. He started kicking things and even cried out of frustration. But there was nothing more he could do. By then, he had no choice but to accept it and move on. A few months later, Jessica became single again and started trying to get back with Andrew. She contacted him, but this time, Andrew had had enough. He didn't want anything to do with her. It was then that we found out who the real father of Jessica's child was. And guess what? It was the same married guy Naomi had been hooking up with at the gym. They even shared the same lover. Rumors started flying around that they had been involved in a love triangle for years. Now, Andrew has been paying child support for all this time, even though the baby isn't his. And while he's not entirely to blame, he is the one who allowed it all to happen. If you have a similar story, share it with us in the comments if you'd like me to narrate it. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. See you next time.